So when I talk to my subscribers who are at an intermediate level, I see that a lot of their end goals seem to be fluency. I also see that there's a lot of misconceptions about fluency, and a lot of people think that fluency is like black and white. You're either fluent or you're not fluent. So in this video, I want to talk about that misconception in greater detail, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's start with the basics. What is fluency? Fluency is basically your ability to articulate your thoughts smoothly. And by smoothly, it means that you speak without having to think too much, without using a lot of fillers like wait, blah, 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 like that. So basically, to speak naturally and fluently, either in your native language or your target language. So when you are fluent in a language, you can understand what is being said and you can make yourself understood, so people understand you. And a lot of the times, people are very comfortable at this stage, including myself. So I feel like once I get to the stage, I don't feel as motivated to really improve myself to the next level, because once I'm understood, then I'm good. One thing about fluency is that it is also topic dependent. It means that you are fluent talking about things that you're familiar with, like your work, your family, your friends, your experiences, and all that. But if you're being asked to talk about things that you're not familiar with, you can't really bullshit your way around it, because your level in the language is just not enough yet. This is why fluency is just a piece of the puzzle. In order to level up, you have to be willing to get out of your fluency comfort zone in order to reach proficiency. Proficiency is your mastery in the language. It means that you are able to comprehend and use the language effectively and at a very high level. At this stage, you will also need good use of grammar. So this is why tests like TOEIC, TOEFL, and what else are there? IELTS and all that, they test for proficiency, not just fluency. However, proficiency is not always the end goal for a lot of learners, because a lot of times learners just want to be fluent, they just want to speak, they just want to listen, they just want to communicate, but they do not need that extra level because they just don't need it. Unless, of course, they go for an academic level. The question is, how do you reach these two levels? So each of this level, they require different approach. So to reach fluency, it's actually pretty easy. So fluency, once you're at an intermediate level, can be reached between 2 or 3 months, provided you are consistent with your effort. The formula to fluency is very straightforward. I have talked about it in this video, but I'm going to repeat it here again. It is basically input plus output on repeat. If for the next 2 months you decide to give yourself massive exposure, massive input in English, and then you also make the time to practice your output, either by talking to yourself, finding a conversational partner, or even finding native speakers online, you can reach fluency. Remember that you need to have your input skills and your output skills balanced. So a lot of people really stick in their comfort zone too long. They get a lot of input, their listening comprehension is very good, but they do not make time to practice their output. On the contrary, there are people who also talk to themselves a lot, they like to hear themselves talk, but once they actually listen to native speakers speaking in normal speed, then they get discouraged and they do not want to do that. So people's comfort zone really differ based on how much practice they get. So make sure to keep those skills balanced. So proficiency really requires you to get out of your comfort zone to always improve. And how do you do that? So in order to reach high proficiency in a language, first you have to look at your 4 skills in the language: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And you have to be honest with yourself, which of the 4 skills is your weakest one, and then you really practice that. Practicing your weakest skill is going to be very uncomfortable, but you just have to pull through. If your writing is the weakest, then you gotta do a lot of writing practice, obviously, duh. This is especially important if you're going for higher education. You can do journaling, you can do blogging, you can do essay writing, etc. In my experience, the writing part is easy, but the hardest part to do is actually getting the motivation to write. Unless, of course, you love writing, you enjoy writing, and you enjoy blogging, but then the thing is, it doesn't come as naturally to a lot of people. On the contrary, if you can write beautiful essays, but you just have poor speaking skills, then you gotta find ways to practice your speaking. This means paying a little bit of money to speak with native speakers, or really getting out of your way to find conversational partner, etc. The one important component in reaching proficiency is for you to receive feedback. So this is also a very challenging part. In order for you to receive feedback, you're gonna have to find someone else to do it for you, right? You're gonna have to look for a teacher or a mentor or a native speaker online, but you can actually do it by yourself for free. However, it's not easy. You do really have to have an eye for it. So what I used to do in English back in the days when I was 15 or something like that, is that I would try to look for a blog about a specific topic. Let's say it's about traveling to Mexico. And then I'm going to read the blog in English. And then I'm also going to try to replicate that blog using my own way of writing. So I'm going to use the same ideas as them, but then I'm also going to just write it for myself. And that way I can compare how do I express certain ideas and how this native speaker expresses certain ideas. So that's how I give myself feedback. Of course, it's a little bit time consuming and it does require some work, but I was so determined to improve my writing skills then, so I just had to do it. But yeah, go for this approach if you just do not have the means to get a teacher or a native speaker to give you feedback. So both stages, however, require one thing that cannot be compromised, and that is massive exposure in the target language. So if you've been following my channel for a long time, you're probably familiar with this philosophy. The number one tip that I always give my subscriber is that massive exposure is the most important thing that you can do. And this cannot be skipped. So that is fluency versus proficiency in a nutshell. So that is it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I also want to wish you a happy new year because it's going to be New Year's Eve by the time this is uploaded. So I wish you a great new year, and I hope you guys are going to celebrate it in a way that is enjoyable to you, and I will see you again next year in another video. And I'm gonna have some exciting projects coming up in next year, so stay tuned for that. Any case, I'm just gonna let you go, and I'm also going to enjoy my New Year's after this. And yeah, so have a good New Year's Eve, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.